infectious diseases to really lay bare, the traits of man.
Yeah, well, it wasn't what I was expecting for the holidays of 21.
No, but I think that getting to that point is the new normal. Like, think about what's going to happen. Think about going to Betty's birthday party when she turns 100, and then poof,
Doesn't happen.
Rug gets pulled out from under you. In fact, I was in the supermarket last night, and I saw like a magazine called Betty White, and it was a big picture on her, and it was like 100th birthday.
Planning, yeah.
So I wonder if that's like
like the Sports Illustrated Jinx.
A collector's edition.
Oh.
Like X-Men 1. Betty White turns 100, not. Just saying. Welcome.
She is a national treasure, of course.
Listeners.
Was. Still is.
And speaking of national treasure, the Nicolas Cage vehicle, are we going to talk about your favorite movie today?
Pig?
Yeah, but you interrupted my intro to The Hotline, featuring Kurt Huffman and yours truly, Leather Snores. Leather Snores?
Snores?
I'm still sniffling from the COVID, so I'm a little off. Leather Snores on occasion. It's true. Welcome. Welcome to 2022. And
man, it's starting with a bang.
Really, we're really
when you
killing
can't pronounce your own name.
I don't know what happened. It's just the COVID. It's the COVID.
It's the COVID. Yeah, you gave me the COVID. Thanks for that.
I did not give you the COVID.
You gave me the COVID.
Antonio Brown did.
No, you gave me the COVID.
You think I did?
I know you did.
Well,
but I didn't have any. I mean,
that's
nobody
friends.
Else. Yeah, that's you
That's
know
friends.
what? But here's this.
I also give you a microplane, so we're even.
Well, that's two things you gave me.
Oh,
so now I owe you two things.
That's okay. Okay, one infectious disease and/or
no.
something
Look, you gave
transmissible.
me super immunity. That's how I think about it.
Okay.
I'm spinning this,
All right.
and I'm very happy about super immunity.
Yeah, I'm not boosted. I will boost, but I don't feel like I need to do it anytime real soon, right?
Might as well just piggyback. I mean,
the most striking thing for me about my COVID experience was the fact that we have a scented geranium that is a citronella aroma.
so quite strong.
Quite strong, quite resinous, like that candle smell. And I remember grabbing a leaf and sort of smashing it to release some of the oils and esters and putting it to my nose and saying, geez, I wonder, you think it's because it's winter that they don't smell anymore? And Natalia said, no, that would be the COVID. And that's when I took a test. And that was the only thing really that alerted me to being sick. Did you have any kind of, there it is experience, or was it the test that told you?
It was the test, and it was the third test because the first two were negative.
Yeah.
So
try again.
Yeah. So on the fifth day after being with you,
you know what?
I'm really gonna drive this one home. 5 days after seeing you, I finally tested positive.
It's been 5 days after seeing you. Oh, sorry.
And it was, I couldn't believe it because I felt great.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a frustration that I was like, ugh. But then I turned it quickly into a positive.
Right. And did some chores around the house, maybe some core movements?
Nope. Did not do anything productive like I was hoping for. Did get some work done though.
Okay.
That was good. Caught up some emails and just, got excited about getting this over with.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking. Now, 22, I'm just ready to roll.
You're just going to get after it.
Yeah.
And starting tomorrow morning with our first workout of the new year.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We've been missing that, and our schedule has tapered down. I mean, the holidays kind of do that. But, I'm really eager to get back in there and start throwing the plates around.
Yeah, we could say that. I'm also excited. I mean, we'll see what tomorrow's like. But I honestly felt like it feels inevitable if you're going to actually hang out with people and not have a mask on. You're probably going to get this thing.
Right.
And my stepson Tommy was so nervous about getting it and was so excited to test negative after he left our house to go back to his dad's, and then went to a New Year's Eve party where he was exposed
to COVID.
And so he's going to have to. So it's just.
Well, has he tested positive, or is it just we're just kind of assuming?
Just found out that there's a big outbreak at the party they were at.
Right.
So it's just, poor kid is, and that's a nightmare. Just then basically you're out of school for a week. So it's just it's a gong show, and thank goodness I got it over with during the holidays.
Right, and my kids also are sort of gently easing through it. Charlotte's on the tail end, and Rye has just started.
Oh, he tested positive?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Nice work.
I mean, we're just clicking it off. And I think, the thing about that I do find comforting is this idea that if we've all had COVID, and my mom, who's 83, has not, then there is a kind of a safety in our immunity for her, I think. I don't believe that we're still carrying it. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know if that is true. It does seem like no matter, I had just received my booster 5 weeks ago, so I was supposed to be at the apex of my my resistance and got it.
All right, I want to ask you move to another topic, again, based on my experience at the grocery store last night.
Okay.
When I checked out, they asked me if I wanted to donate to some, holiday cause, but I declined. And then they asked me if I wanted to round up for something else because it was a penny
Make
number.
change.
Right. Did I want to make it a zero number so that would then go to someone else? And I thought, no, I'm good. I'm just going to buy my groceries. Thank you. And then we went to Rubinette, that, or Providor.
Yeah.
That real snazzy food hall.
Yeah.
And when we checked out from there, I didn't pay, thankfully, because that place is expensive.
Good job.
And but when we checked out from there was a tip option from 15 to 18 to 20%.
At a grocery store?
At Providor, Natalia paid 15%.
Huh.
And after we left, I said, what? And I think because she's a service industry person, because she understands or appreciates or buys into that was okay with her. I would not personally have done that. I wonder how many people do tip on their groceries. And
you wonder if that is also a function of them, because they also are. Don't they serve food there as well?
No, they have like grab and go stuff, but I don't think you sit down and eat. Or you may have,
wow.
But now I think
that's incredibly bold of the owners.
I found that to be remarkable. And then to dovetail that against something we were talking about earlier, which is that Kochka, one of Portland's kind of premier restaurants, has moved to a flat fee for dining, and they're no tipping.
Auto gratuity of 22%.
22%.
Yeah.
And what do you forecast? Having tried this in different forms, how do you see it going?
Oh, well, this is, first of all, America's probably most renowned restaurateur tried this.
Danny Meyer.
And failed.
Right.
And that's a very proud organization that he runs. So for them to kind of have to admit that it was a fiasco was probably not easy. And they still are trying it in different formats, but what Bonnie and Israel are doing is adding a 22% auto gratuity to every bill. I think that's smarter than just simply raising your prices.
Right.
Because you still see the lower price on the menu. So there's not the sticker shock that other people had when they just raised their prices to be tip included. Then they are guaranteeing $25 an hour to all their employees and health care.
But not a $25 an hour salary or wage.
A $25 an hour wage.
Oh, wow.
To everybody.
And is that because of the gratuity, or with the gratuity as an addition?
No, the gratuity, when it is an auto gratuity by law, it becomes a tip by law is the property of the server.
Okay.
When it is a discretionary or a choice, when the guest has a choice of leaving it or not, that money by law belongs to the server.
Mm-hmm.
And then laws have changed where the restaurant can say that is yours, but you need to share it with your coworkers. So tipping out can be enforced. But once it becomes an auto gratuity, the ownership of the tip moves from the server, the staff. It moves to become the property of the restaurant. So that's a pretty big transition, because in a $3 million restaurant, that's $660,000 a year of what used to be tips and now becomes income.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about a tiny amount of money, when you're just writ large in the industry. So they are deciding that they're going to take that money for themselves and add on top of the mandated minimum wage, which is about 15. They're
Right.
basically going to pay everybody $10 an hour more and pay for health care. And health care comes out to be about $1.50 an hour per full-time person. So you're saying you're paying everybody about $11.50 or $12 more an hour. And then they're going to do a profit share. Twice a year they're going to do a P&L analysis where they do a profit share with their staff.
And then based on your time at the restaurant?
Yeah. I mean, the only place I worked in ever with a profit share was Grand Central Baking,
Mm-hmm.
long time ago. And they had a profit share, and I believe it was annually. They would distribute based on the number of hours you'd worked. They took the profit and they divided it by the total hours everybody worked, and then they paid you a part of it. And it wasn't a small amount. I mean, I want to say it was many hundreds of dollars.
That's no pinch of dough.
It's
See, because it's Grand Central Baking.
really good. That's
Thanks.
fantastic.
I have that written down.
Just waiting.
Just waiting.
So it's a risky. These are the things that I know will happen. Their serving staff will make significantly less money than they
Right.
made before, and this is what Danny Meyer experienced: is that when you're making when you're working with a tip credit state, where like Texas, where you only make $2.13 an hour as a server,
Right.
$25 an hour, that's a big deal. In Oregon, you have to be paid 15, and on top of that, you have to be paid your tips. So, as a server, to get $10 an hour in tips is the equivalent of selling $50 an hour of sales.
It's confusing, but I think what I take away from this is that there will be a drastic reduction in the amount that servers make, and you're either going to get crummier servers or disgruntled servers or servers rolling through.
Normally what happens is that because when you have servers that go from making, and at a really busy restaurant like that, there's no way the servers aren't making $20 to $30 an hour on top
of their wage.
So they're making at least $35 to $40 an hour. So if you go down, then you're talking, so you're taking a significant $10 an hour pay cut.
Yeah.
$15 an hour pay cut. Now as a cook, this is good.
Sure.
Because you're getting in our restaurants, we try to make sure that our cooks get up to 20 an hour. So they get 15 plus 5 in tips with the mandated tip out. So and my guess is that their cooks were probably at a similar wage. Everybody's trying. You have to be at that level to have people. So their cooks are effectively getting a $5 an hour raise. But I think I hope it works out because they are great people. I think that they're doing it for kind of a social justice purpose, and that's very explicit in the email they sent out about kind of the history of tips having this kind of questionable historical context. But it opens up, and we did something similar at Loyal Legion when we opened a beer bar we have, where I had everybody getting paid. This is like 7 years ago, so everybody was paid $18 an hour, no tipping.
Right.
And that was a total fiasco.
The customer couldn't understand.
Quite literally couldn't understand the idea of that not being tipped. And the day that we stopped doing it and went to tips, all of our staff went from making $18 an hour to $32 an hour overnight, just because we allowed tipping to start. So the guest was like, I was, as a business owner, I had implemented a system that forced my employees to make more than they could, less than they could, significantly less than they could.
Right.
And it cost me more money, right? I was paying $18 an hour, and the U.S. customer is sitting there wanting to say thank you
Right.
to my staff, and I wasn't letting them. So it was a terrible, terrible decision. But here and I think what's super interesting is when they do these semi-annual reviews, and they sit down and show them their P&L, and they talk about profit share. What is an acceptable profit according to your staff?
Right.
For you to make? How much is reasonable? And that is a very interesting conversation.
So do you think that this idea of laying bare the books is potentially something that might cause the staff to have a communist revolt?
Well, I don't know if it's communist, but I think that it's as a business owner where you've taken huge risk and put yourself through the torture of actually getting a place open and promising to pay people back and taking on all this responsibility. What you may think is a reasonable return for you may not be one that's shared by your employees.
I think what you're saying is that your concern is that maybe the employees are going to see the books and be like, wow, y'all are really raking it in. And we want a bigger piece of the pie? You think that could be a potential?
Well, if it's a vote, right? Then what do you? So let's just give an example. Is it is $100,000 a lot of profit for a restaurant?
Well, I mean, again, that's kind of an open question,
right.
Depending on the restaurant, sure.
Yeah.
But does that? And then again, it begs a bunch of other auxiliary questions. How much are you paying the chefs?
Right.
How much are the owners getting paid in salary?
Yeah. Is $200,000 too much?
What's
too much?
What I think is that they're in a unique position where they have a couple revenue streams.
Yeah.
I think that not only is that horseradish vodka that they make delicious.
Yeah.
It is an absolutely extraordinarily beautiful, appropriate, and giftable package.
Yep.
And so I imagine that bounces off shelves. I think that people still are very interested in what Bonnie has to say about food and her books.
Very smart.
And her writing. And so there is this luxury of having the restaurant, which has made these other possibilities. But now the restaurant is maybe not the big earner, and so they can afford to be more generous. Is that?
Yeah. And God bless if that's where they are, right? That's awesome.
Again, quite admirable.
Yep.
Because you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. And but the people I've talked to that have done it, they're kind of shocked at the difference of opinion between them and their employees about what's a reasonable return, and what's reasonable in terms of profitability.
Right.
And I don't think there's a right answer to it, but. And then a third thing that's very difficult when you're doing these things is trying to make sure that you're showing your staff that all of that money that you've effectively taken away from them, they're getting back one way or another.
In some form.
Right. So, if you, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and it can be done through profit share, but you have to kind of say, okay, we took away 20% of all of our income that used to be yours, and now we're increasing it to 22%, and we're keeping it. So let's just say that's $600,000. And everything that we're doing here costs $450,000 or $500,000. So we're now making an additional $100,000 by essentially taking a margin on the tips.
Right.
And then we're going to redistribute. It's like, whoo, that gets into a level where it's a
can of worms.
It's a can of worms.
Yeah.
But short term, you can't decrease people's wages significantly and not expect turnover.
And you're also going to have people just demanding the ability. I'm leaving cash. I don't care what you say. I'm leaving more money.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, if you leave, but that's fine, right? But all of the money that you leave in an auto gratuity is still the property of it's just culturally a huge change. And I think what can happen in the best case scenario is the people that you bring in to serve and replace the people that don't want to make less are kind of mission-driven employees, where they're behind what we're doing, what's happening. They believe in it, and I think that's we saw a similar turnover at Nostrana.
Right.
Right. So Nostrana put in place a completely different tip-out structure with a much more progressive tip-out, and Kathy and David saw a pretty significant turnover.
Right.
The staff, the front of house staff, just like, I can't go from making this to much less. I'm going to go to a restaurant where I can continue making more.
Yeah. And this is a very, very monolithic problem monster reality. And, knocking up against it, as Danny Meyer did, or as Bonnie and Israel are trying to do, may help chip away this tipping phenomenon, which is uniquely American. It is anxiety causing, and especially now that we have a lot of Square interface, you as the customer are forced to make a decision about this person's service who is standing right in front of you. And you feel like a shit if you put 15. You're like, and a lot of places will go up to 30, and you accidentally did that. You're not going to say, oh, would you mind going back a screen because I tipped you too much?
Right.
So there are all these funny kind of feelings about it, and there is this constant American duality in sort of what we say we do and what we think, and
but what we know is that Americans love tipping.
They do.
They love tipping.
They like making it rain.
Yeah, and I think as an owner of a restaurant, your responsibility first and foremost is to make sure that you can pay your employees as much as possible.
Right.
Right. Does that go towards that end? I don't know, but it may do better, but it is going to require a massive amount of work on the back end to justify how the dollars are getting spent, where they're getting spent. And believe it or not, when you're working for tips, there is a perfect alignment between what the customer is hoping for and what the server is hoping for. Is that, it's the reason tips work.
To ensure proper service.
Or prompt, I think.
I think you're right, yeah.
It's like when you're a guest, you want great service.
Right.
And if you're working literally for a fifth of that check, right, you want to provide great service, and that incentive is perfectly built.
Well, and that's the other thing. We have both seen that server,
right,
in a restaurant who night in, night out is getting half again as many dollars in sales as all of the others.
Yeah.
And I think you do a little bit of a disservice to your institution and that kind of spirit by flattening this.
Yeah, and Danny Meyer tried to provide these incentives so that the great servers and these people just exist, and just like great sales people in any industry.
Yeah, if you like food, if you like people, and you can convey your joy in a way that doesn't make people feel like you're giving them the business, like you're upselling,
right,
then that's your jam.
And great servers and great salespeople make you feel good about yourself.
Yes,
and what
you're spending
doing,
more money and
you're
enjoying it more.
Enjoying it, right? And the greats do that. and it is a real skill. And in every restaurant you can look at reports and see, and the difference between a great server and a bad server is remarkable.
Right.
In terms of the amount of wine, the amount of desserts, the type of product that you buy. When you're enthusiastic about things, and in general, what's good in the food industry is that the more expensive stuff is better.
Right.
Right. The more expensive white wine is better than the less expensive white wine.
It's just about how can you, suavely deliver that to the person, make them think it was their choice, make them think that you're adding their value.
That is the art.
And for me as a chef, it took a very long time and was very difficult to finally come to terms with the fact that good service can save bad food.
Oh, yeah.
But the opposite is not true.
Yep.
If you have a fantastic meal delivered by a chump, that's what you're going to remember.
Yep.
And that's maddening. That's maddening as a chef.
Yep.
But if you don't understand that, you run the risk of just going into the ground.
So our mutual friend Ryan McGarian, the guy who created Aviation Gin,
Be well.
is a really neat guy. But Ryan, when I first met him, had this mantra, which I was skeptical at first, but now I've come to embrace, which is ESP, environment, service, product. Those are the three keys to restaurants and bars. And they are important in that order. Environment, the most important. Service, the next most important. Product, the least important. And if you look now, that is a very demoralizing kind of order of things. But when you look at the number of places out there that are huge successes, and this is right, of course, some people are going to love product no matter what and blah, blah, blah. But in general, writ large, environment is the most important part of a successful restaurant. You want to feel good, look good, sounds great, comfortable, then service, and then product. And the proof is that everybody can name hundreds of places they've been to that the actual food or drink was terrible, but man, it was a cool experience.
Right.
Everybody has those.
And then the trick, I think, as the restaurant is to provide that and then get people to trumpet the product as though that were the calling.
Right.
As though that's the reason. Like, yeah, I go to In-N-Out for the burgers.
Right.
Or Shake Shack.
Right.
I mean, these are two instances of people purveying hamburgers and French fries. But because their environment and service, I think, calls people in a certain way, then they're loyal to those burgers and fries.
Yep.
But is it that what they're loyal to, or is, as you say, is it the environment? Interesting.
Well,
Go Ryan McGarian.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and it's something that we've begrudgingly accepted because, the whole idea of what we do is to partner with really talented chefs to assure that the product is excellent. And so when you build your whole company around product,
right.
it becomes pretty discouraging to think. But then it just means, we have to focus a lot more on the environment. We have to make sure it feels good, that it sounds good, that people can hear each other.
Right.
All of those details that are critical. And when you go into a lot of kind of, the more raunchy, upstart, don't give a shit, startup restaurants, I think that they can't have a moment when the foodies are discovering them and they're exciting to be a part of, but they don't endure.
Right.
They're like a flash of something cool. But the places that endure, let's just take in Portland, almost always have made sure that the service and the environment are stellar.
Well, I think Bruce Carey was the first person to really understand
he was
capture
remarkable.
That because Zephyro was exactly that. It was this,
think
this
of Blue Hour when
incredible
it
environment.
opened.
And I remember writing about Blue Hour, and I remember specifically the acoustics at Blue Hour being so fantastic. There was this ability to hear the din of the room and the music, but then sort of at your table there was this cone of acoustical silence. It was the most incredible trick. And then he had all of those things that were fun to look at, and the staff was handsome and talented, and that was
And he is handsome.
exactly. That's a perfect example of all of those things. Now, yes, the food in most of those situations was excellent, but it was the other things that made those restaurants really
Just took it to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? And you go into big cities, and it's like those institutions that have endured, the E and the S are rock solid.
right.
And, like it or not, like the product or not, right? But, man, E and the S is rock solid.
E and the S. Are you cooking anything exciting these days? Because I want to tell you about a salad I made. If you don't have anything to offer.
Well, today I started my ham stock yesterday and got that ready. I'm going to make a bean and ham stew.
I like that.
We because we canceled everything because of the COVID, we ended up with a significant amount of ham.
Lots of leftovers in our fridge as well.
So I've been eating a lot of ham.
Yeah.
With
You look a
everything.
little pink.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel bloated.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's ready. Beans are ready. So tonight I'm going to finish it, make it.
I too have been going a little hard on the protein. I was feeling like I needed some roughage, and so when we were at Providor, that fancy store, I bought some just gorgeous different chicories. Some of the radicchios are really pretty bitter, but there's these kind of lighter, kind of peachy ones, and other kinds of Trevisos. Then I iced them, and then I got a pomelo, one of those big humongo citruses, and some grapefruit. Some avocado and some cucumber, and it was this pink and peach and green and fantastic, kind of crunchy, bright, wintry salad, which reset my batteries.
Avocado, grapefruit. I mean, the pomelo is like
kind of a sweeter grapefruit.
Larger,
but it's lots of like crazy pith.
Yeah, that avocado citrus combo is a French classic.
I like that, and I love it with seafood, like cold seafood.
Crab.
Right now.
That's what they usually do it with. Crab and mayo.
I mean, I like the mayo, but I'm moving away, I think, with that kind of stuff just because I think the avocado is pretty rich, and I think the mayo ends up covering some of those flavors. But I'm still a mayo guy.
Yeah, I just like that acidity with the mayo is pretty. That's pretty nice.
A little fat and zap.
Yeah, but I have fond memories of those dishes. So that's what you're cooking.
That was just last night.
Oh,
with some handmade pasta.
I love chicories.
Yeah,
they're just delicious, and it's something I don't cook enough with.
Yeah, and I think it's nice, especially this time of year when everything's a little gray, to get some of those brighter colors. I feel like they eat with in an invigorating way. How about that?
Well, I'm excited to eat more salads because I've probably had 7 pounds of ham in the last 10 days. It's ham and eggs.
That's
in the
like
morning,
a semi-truck in your
sandwich, it's a ham for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I had so much ham. I made for my neighbors a ham and cheese loaf, which I delivered them
with bread.
Yeah, like a loaf. Just made a loaf of bread and integrated in
pieces
ham and
of
cheese.
ham and cheese.
Yeah, and then delivered
That's like
it to them.
a one-slice sandwich.
It's pretty delish.
I'd like one of those.
So I had a lot of kind of, those bits of cheese that were in the fridge.
I'd like one of those.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, ham and cheese. Just like ends and rinds and stuff.
Oh, just kind of kooky stuff that was left over. Like the cheddar that I forgot about that I had to kind of cut
the gray
molds
off.
Right?
Sure, don't tell anybody.
And so I had a lot of that. So I just basically emptied out all the delicious, like a Beecher's in there and aged sharp, come on.
English cheese.
Yeah, it wasn't
cheddar.
English, cheddar, yeah. Tillamook, God. The aged white cheddar. And I just chopped all that up and all this ham and integrated it into these big, huge loaves, and they were delicious.
What fun. I like the idea.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hook me up.
For yours?
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
I can work on that.
6:30.
Okay.
Tell me any other goodies, any other tidbits.
Ooh, tidbits. In my life right now, can't really think of anything.
Blazer beliefs, thoughts, hopes, big
Well,
trades on the horizon.
Man, I don't know, but it's been a disappointing, discouraging period for us. And yet, I was shopping the other day, and I came across a Blazer T-shirt I hadn't seen before, and without even hesitating, I bought it.
Right.
Which made me realize, the fire's there.
Oh yeah.
You're not gonna. I mean,
It can dim,
It can dim.
but the embers glow.
Yeah, it's just like there's just that underlying believer, the Blazer believer,
Yeah.
in you, and then there's just the reality of the giant turd that seems to be on the horizon.
So maybe just tuck in for a little bit, and then we'll emerge when it's the right time.
Yeah, I think you just. But it's an ugly period, and I think that you can just tell that the storm. Like, it's not like there's blue skies in the future.
No.
It doesn't feel like this feels like, oh boy.
I mean, it's just January, so we've got another 6 months then
Right.
of gray.
Well, 5 months. I mean, I think the chance of us making the playoffs seems incredibly remote. And it's not like we're the Lakers where you have these superstars that are
Just turning it on.
coming back in, and it just feels like, whew, this is going to be a tough one.
Well, here's something tough to think about. My boy turns 18 on Saturday.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
18.
I know. That makes him a man officially. I'm not going to give him that yet. But
Can he beat you in arm wrestling?
that's a good question. Probably with the right arm. But I think the left I still got.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I'm having a little, funny little... Anyway, we're not going to talk about pains. No pains, no prostates. That's 2022. But this is the hotline, and you've enjoyed, probably 35, 40 minutes with us. And we'll be back again next week, right?
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything else that
I mean,
you
nothing
wanted
can
to...
stop us.
Nothing can stop us.
We have super immunity.
Okay.
You're going to get a booster, and then God knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I think all the right arm pains are going to go away.
Go away with my booster, all right?
Yeah, get
Thank
it in your
God.
right arm, make sure. And so, I mean, yeah, it's just this year we're going to finally just kind of come to terms with what we're dealing with culturally.
All right.
I think.
Okay, that's an exciting prediction.
I think that by June we will have decided that COVID doesn't get a special status as the only kind of sickness out there where even if you don't feel sick at all and don't show any symptoms, you still have to kind of hide
Right.
if you've been around somebody that had it. I just think we're gonna come back to what things have always been, which is that if you're feeling sick, don't go to work or don't go out. Don't go around people if you're feeling sick, whether it's a cold or the flu or anything. Just if you feel sick, stay home. And then if you don't feel sick, then go out. I really feel we're going to get there by June.
All right. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. On the hotline. Kurt Huff, Leather Store. And we will hear you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.